Hey everybody, happy Monday. There was a question that really caught my eye today, and the question was, how do I reward myself for my accomplishments rather than punishing myself for my failures? And that I think that's a really good question, because I think with eating disorders, that's one of the biggest problems we have. We tend to look at everything through a screen. In other words, we look at everything. Sorry, I'm trying to get a good angle on my camera here, so I'm a little bit wobbly. We tend to look at everything that's negative and ignore everything that's positive, and that adds to our negativity. And it's not just with eating disorders, it's kind of a mindset that I think is ingrained into a lot of us growing up. We hear 13 positive or negative messages to every positive messages as we're growing up in life. And so it's very, very easy to get caught up in negative thinking patterns. One of the ways that I like to think about it is we have an internal chatterbox. In other words, we're not ever going around with thinking nothing. We're usually, whether we're aware of it or not, we have this little voice going on in our head. And for a lot of us, it's full of negative messages. So one thing that we can do is to become aware of what messages are going through our head and start to change that. You can do that through affirmations, through looking at the mirror, and even putting post-it notes around the room. I know that seems like a very cliche thing to do, but anything that will help you start to think of things more positively. One of the things that helped me is I became a marathon runner and an ultramarathon runner. And for some people looking at somebody with an eating disorder will look at that and say, well, you just changed one obsession for another, or you're just overcompensating. Sure, you're not binging and purging or restricting anymore, but you're overexercising. But for me, it's not, because it's all about the mindset. And the thing for me that running does for me is it's a very rewarding experience for me. And when I accomplish a race, when I have a finish, then to me that's an affirmation that my body is capable of so many things, and that's, I want to take care of it because I love running. There's a book I just got done finishing that I highly recommend. It's called Born to Run, and whether you're a runner or not, just the positive psychology and the way of thinking about things is it's really refreshing. It's by Chris McDougall is his name. So I recommend it. It just barely came out this year. I got it from Borders. I got actually the electronic version and listened to it on my iPod because I have so much going on right now. But, here's on Saturday, this is my last race that I accomplished. It's the Squaw Peak 50. It's the third most difficult 50-mile course in the United States. It covers a huge mountain range, and the elevation gain and loss is 10,000 feet. So if you look at that, if you compare that to life, I was thinking about this as I was running it, because, my last ultra that I did my last 50 miler, I did a sub 11 hours, which is not super, super fast. It's not elite, but that's a pretty big goal, and, I'm getting faster, and it takes a while to get faster. But this marathon kicked my butt because this was 100% trail and dirt road. Well, there was a tiny portion that was on a paved road, but the majority was dirt road and trail, and so it was very technical uphill, steep uphill, technical down the hill with lots of loose rocks and dirt. And with this race, you had to get to 33 miles by 9.5 hours, because there's a very, very difficult part of the course after that they wanted everybody up that part of the mountain before dark, because it's a pretty technical and dangerous part of the course. So This was my slowest race that I've ever done, and it took me 4 hours just to get to the 14 and a half mile mark. Now, if I were in a negative mindset, I could look at that and say, look how terrible of a runner I am. That just took me 4.5 hours. 4 hours to do 14 miles. That's normally what I'm doing almost a marathon, 26 miles in. But instead, I got to the top and I realized I was enjoying the scenery around me. I was really glad that I had listened to that recording beforehand, because I decided this race I was going to really enjoy the run and get into enjoying it. And in fact, I left my iPod at home. I left my GPS tracking system at home. I left my watch home. So most of the race, except for a few of the aid stations, I didn't know what time it was, and I didn't know how fast I was going. I just did what felt good to me. And so it was a reward to me instead of a punishment. And when I got to 14.5 miles and I realized how long it had taken me just to complete that part of the course, and realized that the course was going to be a difficult course, I said, you know what, I'm going to enjoy the race and just aim for that 9.5 hour cutoff at mile 33. And as it was, I got there with half an hour to spare. And then after that, including the climb and the 4,000-foot drop in the last 10 miles, with about 7 of those miles being very technical downhill, so I couldn't go extremely fast downhill. That course took me 16 hours. But I had wanted to do that course in under 14 hours, but instead I just looked at it and that's a learning experience, and it's a good learning experience. And my next race, which is 100K, I'm going to do, is going to be about the same terrain, probably a little bit more difficult, in 12 more miles beyond 50.
Can I play music?